Let's shift gears now to emergency management. February 11th is observed globally as World Emergency Number Day, an initiative dedicated to promoting public awareness, preparedness, and appropriate response during emergency situations. We've been joined in the program by the Lagos State, the director, I should say, or general manager of the Lagos State Command and Control Center, Mr. Femi Giwa, joins us right here. I wanted to be sure I got your designation correctly, so I don't give you a title you don't have.
In the end, you did. You did.
So, thank you so much for coming on the program.
It's a real big privilege for me to be on this platform. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
I would say not many people know you exist. What I mean by that is that there is a Lagos, I like to call the name for the Lagos State Command and Control Center. I'm sure if you go to the streets, what I say is debatable, by the way, but perhaps a lot of people do not. Maybe we know there's an emergency number and all of that, but there's an agency in charge of all of that. Maybe you can educate us. Let's start with basic education as to what you do, because we can say what you do based on what we know about emergency management, emergency numbers and all of that.
So thank you so much. Like you said, our own responsibility is to continue to build the resilience of the public as to what we do. The Lagos State Command and Control Center is the center of, perhaps you say, it is the epicenter for the management of emergencies and disasters across the state. When you say our first responders responding to emergency, it actually starts somewhere. We kickstart emergency response, and I'll tell you the reason why. This is because we are the custodian of the emergency toll-free line. So if you call the emergency toll-free line 767 or 112, it is relayed to the Command and Control Center, where you have the call takers who will analyze and then track those calls. Before those calls, those calls, they go through some process. And then from then, once the call takers, the call agent picks up those calls, using what to call the frequently asked question and their standard operating procedures, those calls within 2 to 3 minutes are processed and then escalated to what we call the multi-agency coordination team, comprising of representatives of first responders, specific first responders, like LASEMA, like the Lagos State Emergency Management Agency, the Rapid Response Squad, the Lagos State Traffic Management Authority, and the rest of them. Domicile, where we call the Emergency Operations Center. It is from this point that each of these agencies, using their internal dispatch protocol, do relevant deployments, and you see people, they would dispatch first response. So once the call comes in, there's a distress call in any location around Lagos. It gets to the Command and Control Center, which of course is the nucleus, or we call it the powerhouse for kickstarting an emergency response.
So any form of emergency,
any form of emergency,
security, health,
whether it is
fire,
emergency or not, even non-emergencies. There's a thin line between emergency and non-emergency. For example, we see like rape or maybe any social welfare issues. Now, if you don't treat those issues and preserve the golden hour, they could move from non-emergency to become emergency. So we treat even non-emergency as emergency. For example, a case is reported about rape, and then nothing is done. They could just be uprising, and then you see they're burning houses and the rest of them because the response was not swift. So we deal with this. So we also have the Domestic Violence Agency, the social welfare team, also domiciled in the Command and Control Center.
On the average, how many calls do you receive in a day?
On the average, we receive...
In Lagos?
Yes, in Lagos. Lagos State is a very peculiar state. And then if you're talking about the dynamics of its population, and then you begin to see the kind of call that comes in, you will be amazed. In some cases, we receive between 30 to 40,000 calls every day.
A day?
Yes, but then, you see, we need to understand that there are calls that we call linked call or linked incidents. Now you are calling, madam is calling, 200 people are calling for the same call. Okay. So by the time we do an analysis, and then, of course, beyond that, you also have people putting up calls. Some of those calls are nuisance calls. Some of those calls are hoax calls. So when we see those calls, at the end of the day, you could be talking about maybe we are dealing with maybe real calls, could be maybe like 400, 500 calls, sometimes in thousands, depending on the peculiarity, the peculiarity of the day.
So the core function of your agency is emergency operation.
Well, our core function, let me explain to you. Now, what we do is that, like I said, beyond the fact that we are the central hub where incident management is coordinated in the state, we support our first responders. Now, how do we support them? We support them with information, which we call situational awareness. We support them with resources. Now, let me give you this. Now, the first responders are those that we refer to as those who are at the level of the unseen incident command. These are people who are on the field operation. Now, you are responding perhaps to maybe a domestic fire, maybe a high-rise building. And now you want to achieve your incident objective, which are basically three: life-saving. You want to stabilize the incident. You want to protect and preserve the environment. Now, as they continue to work under what we call a unified command, you have several responders. It will get to be the work of the incident commander, that's the man who directs that operation, is to ensure that he achieves those objectives. Now, there could be depletion of resources. You need more fire truck.
You need more?
You need more fire trucks, or you need more personnel. You need security. You need to call the command and control. So the incident command will continue to interface with the command and control center.
Yeah. The reason I ask that question, I double down on it, is to say, is your agency not a proliferation of the work of the Lagos State Emergency Management Agency already?
No. LSCCC is a first responder. Now, LSCCC will not attend to any emergency if we do not escalate calls to them or escalate incidents to them. Now, even when they are, of course, by virtue of the law 16 of 2008 that created LSCCC, LSCCC is meant to direct incident management on scene. Now, while they're on scene, they need all the relevant support to be able to achieve all the objectives they need to achieve. And they can't do that.
But all of this can be taken care of under one agency instead of having LSCCC and having your own agency as well.
Disaster management doesn't work that way.
But it worked prior to the coming on board of Lagos State Command and Control Center.
Let me educate you on that. Disaster management is about multi-agency collaboration. And there is what we call the incident command system. The incident command system means that, now let me just explain to you. Let's say you have fire. If you have fire, the firefighters will need to deal with how to put out the fire. While we are talking about somebody can be trapped with it, LSCCC has the responsibility of providing the requisite skill, people who are skilled in search and rescue. While you are doing that, RRS must also ensure that they provide security. The emergency medical services will be there once you scoop any victim to provide basic life supporting services. So it's about interagency collaboration. Now, while they are doing that on scene, the man who is on scene will not begin to bother his head about how do I get additional resources. Where are
so it's the command that takes care of that.
So the command and control is the central hub. So we'll continue to support.
But prior to your coming on board, the system worked without the interface or intervention of the Lagos State Command and Control Center, didn't it?
It did not work effectively, and that's the essence. You see, if you go to every enclave, you will hear when they talk about the Emergency Operations Center, which is a component of the Command and Control Center. The Emergency Operations Center is where you get all the intelligence and situational awareness and all the resources to support field operation. That's how it's done all over the world. And the essence, and you'll find that disaster management is on a continuum and it's dynamic. We keep changing. We look at best practices. How is it done abroad? So if you go to any enclave, no first responder will perform effectively without a central command, where you get all the necessary support in terms of intelligence, in terms of resources. Now, if you need an additional backup, where do you get those backup from?
Right.
So we are the ones who do all this to ensure that we have a robust incident management system in the state.
Well, Mr. Giwa, yes. I could ask my question.
Go ahead.
Better still, I could just demonstrate it to Nigerians. Yes. Because you don't want to wait till you have an emergency before you begin to test some of these things. So I'm calling 767 yes. On my phone. And, well, it's been 8, 9, 10 seconds. It rang? Oh, hello, good morning. Well, I must say that this is a test call, just to be sure that this is working. But thank you for your work. This is a test call, my brother, just to test if this really works. Thank you. So the call was picked. By the way, I should say, Mr. Agua, before you jump on this, this was not planned. We just decided to try this live. So Nigerians will know, or at least Lagosians will know if this really works. And I must say, my call was picked in 6 seconds. And I reiterated that this was a test call so that we don't have the emergencies. And we're beginning to wonder, what is the number? The numbers to call, 112 and 767. Mr. Giva, that was good to see. Because the last time we had LASMA, it was LASMA we had on the show. We called the line, it didn't ring. In fact, someone sent message, I said, I have been calling that line for as long as I know, it has never been picked. But I see a situation now where a lot of people still don't have this information. If you ask the average Nigerian, if they are well-traveled, they'll tell you, okay, I know in America it's 911. I know in the UK it is maybe 999 or 112. I know in Europe it's primarily 112, other European countries. But here in Nigeria, we've had several numbers. In fact, at some point, they were giving us the long 080. So I'm thinking, how am I meant to remember this long number when I have an emergency? But now it is 112 and 767. My question is this. How much manpower do you have? For Lagos, which is a population of over 20 million people, you say you get almost 40,000 calls daily. What is your manpower like?
No, well, if you're talking about manpower, are you talking about the sum total of our manpower, not just taking Lagos State Command and Control Center? Are you talking about the manpower of the entire emergency management infrastructure of the state?
No, yours. Yours. Because you handle, you're the clearinghouse, so you handle the calls.
Our manpower, we have continued to improve on our manpower. And it will excite you to know that Mr. Governor, Mr. Babajide Olusola Sanwo-Olu, has approved colossal amounts of money for the upgrade of our systems. Now, we, other than the 767 that you see as a platform, we have introduced what we call LEMS, LERMs. It's called the Lagos State Emergency Responder Management System. This system is a system within system. We have about 5 components in that system. Now, people, other than putting up call through your 767, people will be able to reach us through social media platform. There's what we call the Eco-Edition Distress app that is going to come up, which of course means that with that, people through the social media platform,
people can also call for.
We will synchronize that with our system. Secondly, we're also able to call the dispatch, the responders to dispatch management system, which means that as soon as you put up your call, through requisite technology that are implanted in our infrastructures like vehicles and the rest of them, those call comes in, the responder immediately activates emergency response, moves, and then because of the GIS system, you don't even need to interface with the command and control center. Third, we have what we call the ambulance management system. And the ambulance management system, unlike what you see, is just to preserve the golden hour, which is that timeline between life and death. Now, you have a situation where people scoop a victim, and then you're looking for hospital. With the ambulance management system, you know the specific hospital or tertiary healthcare where you're taking that victim to preserve the golden hour. Then we have the notification and alert system, which will, of course, thrill you. Like most of us travel abroad, we get directory, we get weather directory. Once you're using a phone, whether it's an Android enabled, you just find out that they'll tell you that, okay, well, temperature is going to rise to this level, you're going to have this. Exactly what we're going to do now. So, which means that we can begin to build situational awareness of the public. If there is an incident, let's say around Urushuki, it pops up. So, you know, a tanker has upturned, blah, 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 blah. You need to take this route alternative, or they tell you the most appropriate behavior you need to put up so that you prevent disasters or secondary incidents from this. So these are a couple of things that Mr. Governor has done, putting up infrastructure.
I'm happy we brought you in so that the number 112, so at least I called, I wanted to call 112, but no, I think I will be called. I will not have a reason. But sometimes these numbers are not necessarily for oneself. It's first yourself, and then sometimes something could happen somewhere, you need to call for help for those people. Response time, at least we've tested is 6 seconds. I don't know whether we're lucky or this is standard. So what is the average response time?
Well, we're trying as much as
in terms of calling and they pick your call.
And then you even get a response to answer.
Now, let me educate us on what we
just
talk
1
about
minute.
response time. Now, when you're talking about the response time, that response time is that time within which a caller picks up a call, escalates that call, and then dispatches or deploy the necessary resources to an incident scene. It begins to count from when the call agent or the call taker picks up that call. That's the response. So what we try as much as possible to do is to achieve a response time of 5 minutes. But then you also need to know that the response time is also dependent on a couple of factors. Logistics, depend on weather, depend on a lot of conditions. But as much as possible on the average, the state, and that's why you see the decentralization of disaster management.
Okay.
You see LASEMA has response unit all over. You see fire has divisional offices. You see LATSMA. That's a essence, so that we can have a reduced response time, at least a response time of about 5 minutes.
All right.
Incidents.
Mr. Femi Giwa, we're totally out of time. So we wish we can keep the conversation going, but at least we have created this awareness now to be sure that a lot of people can be part of, can get to know how to help themselves and every other person, because in Lagos, there are different things. When you have this crop of people populated all over the place, incidents are all over the place.
It's interesting you mentioned Lagos. Are you aware of this in any other state besides Lagos?
Yes, of course, we're aware. It's a lot of, Lagos has set a standard and a model. And then we have a lot of people, a lot of states.
Now they know you exist, so that maybe they can come and take a course from Lagos State. Femi Giwa, General Manager, Lagos State Command and Control Center. We must appreciate you. And keep up the good work.
Thank you so much.
We appreciate it.
Thank you so much.